It's a Thursday and I'm off to work in the taxi. I give the cab a quick wipe down on Heath Drive as it's looking a little bit tatty, and I want to ensure that my cab is sparkling so people can see it to ensure they hail me and not someone else's taxi. I come down Wellington Road just past St John's Wood and I manage to spot these ladies on Park Road just near the Regent's Park Mosque. Now they want to go to Hanover Square, and there's two ways I can get to Hanover Square. The first would be from New Bond Street via Brook Street. However, I know that Brook Street is closed, so I have to get it from Regent Street using Hanover Street. Knowing this, my best option is to duck into Regent's Park. I come out onto the Marylebone Road using York Gate and I come down Portland Place. I'm not a particularly good fan of Portland Place because the traffic lights always seem to be out of sequence. You can never get a good clear run on these. But it's the way we need to go to be able to set these ladies for Hanover Square. Eventually getting ourselves onto Regent Street, getting that all important right into Hanover Street where I can set them there. I don't have to go far to get my next job. This gentleman here at Harewood Place. Now, he actually wants to just go to the Burlington Arcade, just at Burlington Gardens. A little bit of a wiggly route, and unfortunately because of where he's hailed me, I've just gone past Tenterden Street. So I let the gentleman know that it's going to be a little bit of up and down and wiggling to get him to Burlington Gardens, but he's absolutely fine with this. So we go around the back of John Lewis, we come down New Bond Street. From here we can see the Brook Street closure on the left hand side, exactly why we couldn't have set Hanover Square from this direction, and we wiggle our way into Burlington Gardens.
Not a problem.
As I drop this passenger off, a passerby comes up to me with a very strange request.
Tell me, good sir, where can I get tasty, sustainable nutrition from? Ideally quite quickly.
Well, sir, I think the tasty, on-the-go nutritional meal you're looking for is Y-Food.
Y-Food, you say?
Yeah, Y-Food. There's a perfect blend of carbohydrates and protein, as well as 26 vitamins and minerals, so you're ensuring you're getting good, sustainable nutrition.
This Y-Food sounds quite nice. What kind of flavours do they do?
Well, they've got dessert favourites, such as classic chocolate, creamy cookie, or even funky peanut.
So it's quick and convenient, it's nutritionally complete, it tastes good. Is there anything else you can do to sweeten the deal?
Well, fortunately for you, good sir, and for anyone who might happen to be intruding our conversation, Y-Food are giving you a full 10% off your entire order, and that's unlimited. Just use my code TAXI10 or use the link down in the description. Cheers again to Y-Food, and yes, have a drink on me, sir.
Pina colada? That sounds quite nice. Let's give that a go. Sir, would you like a go of this? No, you just want a taxi. I think he's off to Ladbroke Square. Off you go, sir.
I'm very cautious to think about the best way to start this route. If I continue on with the direction I'm facing, exit via Old Bond Street, that's actually going to pull me south. I then have to get a sneaky U-turn and then I have to then cut my way back up into Mayfair. On the way out onto Clifford Street, it looks like we pass some kind of a high-class drug deal. If I take this right into Cork Street, pick up Clifford Street, Savile Row, it's a little bit of wiggling, but it neatly sets me up for Grosvenor Street, and that ensures I can get out to Park Lane. Effectively, for this route, I need to get to Bayswater Road. That is the crux of this route. Now, the traffic usually builds up at this point by Victoria Gate of Hyde Park, and that's because the traffic narrows into one lane. But seems a lot heavier today for some strange reason. Is the Ocado van broken down? No, looks like he's just taken a phone call. We come in at Notting Hill Gate, get a right into Pembridge Road, comply by the roundabout, leave by Kensington Park Road, going past the Green Hut in the middle of the road, and we can get our left into Ladbroke Square. So I come all the way back in, I come in via Upper Brook Street, and I notice that the traffic is quite heavy from Grosvenor Square going into Brook Street. So I peel around the square, and this gentleman with a box manages to hail me down. This is probably the best place I can stop, just clearing the crossing. He wishes to go to Passmore Street. It's just off of Pimlico Road. This route is bread and butter stuff. I must do this every single day whenever I come out in the cab. So as we come down Park Lane, I know that getting in lane 3 is going to be my best option to get me around Hyde Park Corner and set me up very neatly for Grosvenor Crescent. Once we're in Grosvenor Crescent, I take Belgrave Square. I leave it by Chesham Place. There's a few ways that you can take this route, but I peel left on Chesham Place and get a left into Lisle Street. I love this route because as I look down Lisle Street, I can see that the light is already green, meaning that it's most likely going to turn red as I approach. So I carve it up a little bit more using Eaton Place. You can see at this part of Eaton Gate that the traffic is building up in this area, presumably for the Chelsea Flower Show. So I opt to go straight over, continue along Eaton Terrace, past this yellow Ferrari that's always parked here, right Ebury Street, right Pimlico Road, right Passmore Street. Of course, knowing that the Chelsea Flower Show is on, and as it's kind of mid-afternoon, I opt to head for that direction. I don't have to head very far down Holborn Place before I get this group who hail at the last minute. They want to go to King's Cross. I have a quick look in Google Maps, and it seems to think that the best route at 39 minutes would be to wiggle our way around Parliament Square, go along the embankment for a bit, come up and go via Fetter Lane to eventually work our way back and get ourselves along the Gray's Inn Road. Now I'm thinking that 39 minutes is quite a long time to complete this journey, and I'm willing to bet that it's going to be quicker for me to go through the centre. And not only would it be quicker, the route will be shorter. The way the meter works is that if we took two journeys that took exactly the same amount of time, but one of them was physically longer in terms of distance, then of course the distance one would add up to more because you're covering more miles. So it's in the passenger's best interest that I take the shortest route. I certainly don't think it's going to be as bad as 39 minutes, which is the best that Google is suggesting. So instinctually, I just reverse the route I've just done. Over Eaton Square, work our way back through Chesham Place as it neatly cuts out all those traffic lights, back round Belgrave Square, and thankfully Grosvenor Crescent is relatively quiet at this time of day. We're not going to take Park Lane because, as you can see, the queue for it is ridiculous. So continuing with our route of Piccadilly and just going straight through the middle seems to be the best option. And Piccadilly's relatively good. Even this bit here that builds up usually by Piccadilly Circus is relatively good. We go through Piccadilly Circus, up Shaftesbury Avenue. The sheer amount of hazards in London are exemplar as to why the knowledge is so important. If I was staring at a sat-nav, I could very easily miss all of these hazards. There's someone at the crossing, there's two cyclists on my near side rear wing, there's also a cyclist pulling out of the junction ahead. Continue on up Bloomsbury Street, and it's at this point where I have to decide, will I take Torrington Place or use Great Russell Street and go past the British Museum? I opt for Great Russell Street, neatly going around the square, setting us up for Russell Square Station on Bernard Street. We then come along past the Brunswick Centre and do the Bloomsbury Shuffle and get a right out onto the Euston Road. We're pretty much there, we're sorted, and you'll be pleased to know that it took me 37 minutes. So yes, only 2 minutes saved, but it was also the shorter route. So I'm saving them time and money. But no, there's going to be someone in the comments who goes, sat-navs are so good, why don't you just use the sat-nav? If you want to see my arguments as to why I don't use the sat-nav, check out this video over here. As I drop off, I have a quick look at the King's Cross rank. Now, you might think there is a space just by the drop-off, over on the right-hand side. However, there is actually a queue of cabs that are waiting for the light to turn green so they can fill up this gap. If I did a U-turn and joined onto this rank, I would be cutting in front of another driver, and not very good rank etiquette. I don't want to be doing that. I go up to have a little look at St Pancras. I join the rank, but as I approach it, I can see there is a queue as well, so I decide to leave the rank. The mental formula for whether I join a rank or not is rather simple. I've just got to think, if I drive on the street, will I pick up a job quicker than the time it takes for me to sit and go through that rank. Obviously, there's a lot of luck involved and you can't guarantee a job, but you can make these rough mental calculations as you go about your work. I make my way back through the Bloomsbury area, get to Great Russell Street, and I see that a cab on the British Museum has just picked up. So I decide to sit there. Just because someone has picked up on a rank doesn't then mean that I am guaranteed a job. In fact, when I join the point of this rank, I actually sit there for about 10 minutes. I eventually get this lady who wishes to go to the Princess Grace Hospital. I always remember the Princess Grace because it rhymes with the street that it's on. Princess Grace, Nottingham Place. As I start this route, I realise that I can go the full length of Gower Street. This part by UCLH has recently changed because they've banned the left turn at the top of Tottenham Court Road. If you want to go westbound on Marylebone Road, you have to come at it via this way. Now, it's very hard to reflect in this video, but the entire journey takes around 18 minutes. 10 of those minutes is just going up Gower Street. I've mentioned the London borough that Gower Street sits within. I won't mention the name of that borough, but I think you know who I refer to. I drop off at Nottingham Place, and this is a very good chance to go to the toilets on Paddington Street. As I'm relatively close to Marylebone High Street, I work my way back there, and I manage to see this gentleman who hails me on the corner of Weymouth Street. You will see that there is zigzags from the crossing, so I'm keen not to stop on those zigzags as this is against the law. The gentleman and his wife walk up to the cab and they want to go to Marylebone Station. I'm now heading eastbound at this point, so I need to work my way up onto the Marylebone Road by using Upper Wimpole Street and Devonshire Place. Relatively simple run. The hardest part is probably just cutting across the 2 lanes of traffic to get the right turn into Balcombe Street. I generally set most Marylebone passengers at this little island in the middle of the road, and this is largely because it causes the least amount of obstruction to pedestrians and passing traffic. Always worth looking at the Marylebone rank just in case it's moving. It looks a little bit long for my liking, so I go back past the rank, come back down Balcombe Street, and very neatly leads me out onto the Marylebone Road so I can go down Baker Street and get back into the action. Now, when this gentleman hails me down and gets inside of the cab, I have 5 seconds to process the information and get the correct turning.
"54 what, sorry? Oh, Seckford Street. Yes, in Clerkenwell area. Clerkenwell. Like over near the city.
You notice how the traffic light is green? I have to think on my feet. There is no time to stop. There is traffic behind me that is eager to keep moving. This is a good example of the knowledge in action, and for 2 reasons. To get to Clerkenwell Green, it is literally run along Oxford Street eastbound and just keep going until you get to Clerkenwell Green. Therefore, had I decided to panic and go, "Ooh, where's Seckford Street?" and go straight over, this would have easily added a minimum of 3 minutes to the journey and probably another 2 or 3 quid on the meter. And secondly, he hasn't actually got a clue where this street is. He actually says, "It's near the river, right?" To which I replied, "No, not really. I mean, technically, it is near the river Fleet, but the River Fleet was covered over in the 19th century. I keep that historical fact stum because he's not a regular to London. I don't want to confuse him any more than he might already be confused. Simple run, we just run it all the way along eastbound along Oxford Street, Bloomsbury Way, Bloomsbury Square, forward into Theobald's Road, Clerkenwell Road, and of course we're forced up Rosebery Avenue. This closure was actually in my last shift video, recorded over 2 months ago. You can check out that one over here. We have to wiggle around the back of Topham Street, Coldbath Square, and that neatly brings us out onto Farringdon Road. From here we can use Ray Street, and that neatly drops us into Clerkenwell Green. I drop him off by this old cattle trough and let him know where it is. The gentleman is presumably in this area for Clerkenwell Design Week. A little bit of insider knowledge I got from my girlfriend, and you can see by some of the establishments along Clerkenwell Road, celebrating Design Week in this area. Always handy to know because I might be able to get a job in this area either now or later on. Sadly, I have no luck in this area, and it's not until I get to St Martin's le Grand where I get this lady hail me down. Now, it's on a set of red lights, which I know are going to turn green very quickly. She comes to jump in the cab, but I lock the doors and I beckon her over to a safer place where I can pick her up, and she's able to get in and tell me that she wants to go to Waterloo Station. Waterloo Station from the city is just bread and butter work. 9 times out of 10 they will also say, can you drop me by the steps? It's made a little bit harder now because of the two-way working of Aldwych. Just takes a little bit longer to get around it, but we make our way through Newgate Street, over Holborn Viaduct, get ourselves a left into Fetter Lane, which is still eerily quiet in 2022, along Fleet Street, going past Temple Bar in the middle of the road there. Temple Bar used to be it was like a ceremonial passageway separating the city of Westminster from the city of London. Basically, the monarch couldn't walk into the city of London unannounced without permission from the Lord Mayor of London. We get over the Aldwych, and thankfully the traffic isn't too bad. We can neatly get ourselves onto Waterloo Bridge and admire one of the best views in all of London. We get ourselves over to Tennyson Way, comply by the IMAX roundabout, leave it by York Road, and we set for the steps out the front. I don't really enjoy setting outside the steps here, but I know it's very convenient for people to catch their onward journey.
Thanks a lot, have a good evening.
I'm very lucky that as I drop off, I get these couple of ladies who want to go to a new development called the Dumont. I've never heard of it, but they tell me it's quite near to Vauxhall Station. So I start making my way there. On the way, we go past Lambeth Palace on the left-hand side, over Lambeth Circus, and down into Albert Embankment. From Albert Embankment, they actually asked me to take a left into Black Prince Road, allowing me to get the forecourt for the Riverbank Park Plaza. Now, the Riverbank Park Plaza is actually having some renovations going on, meaning that it's quite tight for space out the front. So I have to sit and wait for the cab in front to unload before I'm able to drop my passengers at their destination just after the hotel. I head back in, and as we're still within that rush hour period, I'm thinking I'm going to head to the Victoria area. So I go over Lambeth Bridge, which is one of the shortest bridges in London, coloured pink because of its proximity to the House of Lords, where Westminster Bridge is actually coloured green because of its proximity to the House of Commons. Now, another cool feature to point out as we go over Lambeth Bridge is the pineapples on either end of the bridge. Now, this is actually a tribute to John Tradescant, who was gardener to King Charles I. He was a Lambeth resident, and he was said to be the first person in Britain to grow pineapples. I go along Horseferry Road, named after the horse ferry which operated in this area. Go past the Iron Lung, a favourite stopping point for cabbies on the left hand side, and as we come round Greycoat Place, you will see that the pub is quite packed. Thursdays really are the new Fridays in London, and I'm lucky to spot these two ladies. They've actually come from the Chelsea Flower Show, and they've been in this area afterwards. They want to go to Waterloo Station. I'm already a little bit fearful of this route because the Mall is shut halfway along it, as is Great George Street, another way of approaching Westminster Bridge, meaning that a lot of traffic is actually forced into Victoria Street and Broad Sanctuary, the Westminster Abbey kind of area. We're very lucky though that it's quite clear, managed to get very neatly into Parliament Square. We're pointing out some of the wonderful landmarks and curiosities within this area, such as, why is there a statue of Abraham Lincoln outside the Supreme Court? And I love setting Waterloo Station from the back because you get to go through that wonderful archway tunnels. It's always clear, it's got a super neat driveway up to it. It just feels really good to set there, unlike some of the busier stations such as, say, King's Cross. As I'm dropping them off, I can see that there's not many cabs on the rank, and as I join onto the rank, the two cabs in front actually get jobs, meaning that I am straight to point. There's no better feeling than this when you drop off and you're instantly able to service one of the busiest stations in London, and that is Waterloo. I pick up this lady who wishes to go on to Paddington Station. It's quite a difficult run actually for a couple of reasons. Firstly, this time of day, we're still within that rush hour kind of time, but also because of where Waterloo Station sits. It is neatly between Waterloo Bridge and Westminster Bridge, and neither one of these bridges is more optimum for Paddington Station. Added to the fact that the closures in the Buckingham Palace area knock out my ideal route that I'd normally take. Parliament Square, Great George Street, Birdcage Walk, go past Great Aunt Liz's house, and then up Constitution Hill, Park Lane, and that way. But I go via the Victoria Embankment, go via Northumberland Avenue, King Charles I Island, leave that by Pall Mall, and I get into St James's Street and pick up the route that way. Effectively, again, getting to Paddington, I need to get to Marble Arch Park Lane. At this time of day, I really want to set it Parade Street because that's going to be the quickest possible way I can set this. So, need to get to Park Lane. My best way, I'm thinking, is to get to St James's, and then I can wiggle it through Mayfair, neatly bringing me out onto Park Lane. Go up St James's Street, position ourselves in the right-hand lane, neatly setting us up for Albemarle Street, cut through onto Dover Street, Hay Hill, top part of Berkeley Street, around Berkeley Square, Carlos Place, go past the Connaught Hotel, out via Grosvenor Square, Upper Grosvenor Street, up Park Lane, wiggle our way through to Bayswater Road. And from here, I love it because once you get to Bayswater Road, there's no more traffic lights until you get to Parade Street. Upon dropping, I'm not quite too sure where to head, so I just go along Oxford Street. I generally hate going along Oxford Street. Since COVID-19, where they've widened parts of pavements that we would normally pull into to pick up passengers, there's nowhere to do this now, so you have to stop on the road. It generally pisses off a lot of bus drivers, and of course lots of cyclists take this route. It's a very direct route through London, and I don't really like pissing people off. I get a bit anxious when, you know, you pick someone up and it takes a bit of time to load them in the cab, so I generally steer clear of Oxford Street. Luckily, I don't have to go too far along Oxford Street, still within this west part by Primark, and I pick up this gent who's walking west. I spin round to the opposite side of the street and pick the gentleman up. He informs me that the central line is down. He's quite inquisitive to ask me how long the route might take, and I tell him that I don't really know because I haven't been down Holland Park Avenue. It can sometimes get very snarled up Holland Park Avenue coming out onto Holland Circus. I pacify him as we reach this point at Victoria Gate because it always builds up here, where 2 lanes of course converge into 1, and luckily as we go through Bayswater Road, Notting Hill Gate, it's all pretty clear, fine and easy. As we go down Holland Park Avenue, despite me telling him that I know exactly where Upper Addison Gardens is, he's still very insistent on telling me how to get there. It's effectively behind the Hilton Kensington, which I have no idea why it's called the Hilton Kensington. In fact, it's probably nearer to Shepherd's Bush than it is Kensington. Hilton Holland Park might be the better name for it, but alas, this is marketing after all. Upon dropping him, I have to go all the way back to Oxford Street and all the way to Oxford Circus before I pick up my next job. This is a bit of a compromised location to hail. I decide to stop here just before the junction, and they don't want to go far. They get in and they ask for St Giles. Now, my immediate reaction is St Giles High Street, that bit near Shaftesbury Avenue. They actually inform me they're after the St Giles Hotel, which is on Bedford Avenue, just off of Tottenham Court Road. Luckily, it's gone past 7 PM, so this is a simple run. We just go out along Oxford Street, do a left at Tottenham Court Road, go up Tottenham Court Road, and sadly, when you approach this from the south, there is no suitable way of getting the passengers directly to the door, so I have to drop them opposite. But again, these streets and Tottenham Court Road sit within a particular borough of London. I wonder who it could be. As I drop these off, I have another group who actually want to get straight in my cab. I let them know that I'm unavailable. It's always pretty hard to turn down a job because, of course, a job is money in your back pocket. But I've agreed to go to dinner with my girlfriend, so I head over to Clerkenwell, where she's been hanging out for Clerkenwell Design Week.
Design Week person.
And always eager to try new places in London, I finally get myself to Fish Central on Central Street. Had a lot of recommendations for this from cabbies and passengers, so really excited to try this one out. Now, as I see myself as a fish and chips connoisseur, it definitely gets a thumbs up from me. I dropped my girlfriend at Farringdon Station before turning my light back on and proceeding with the hunt for another job. I get to Fleet Street and I manage to spot this gentleman who's actually coming out of the office and manages to hail me down from inside of the office. Now, this gentleman wants to go to Pembridge Villas. There's lots of ways of running this, but at this time of night, I opt to get out of the central zone, so I buzz it up along the Euston Road. And surprisingly, there's no traffic in the Euston underpass, eastbound. Traffic's really light as I go into Marylebone Road westbound, so much so that I don't even really need to use the bus lane. It makes a massive difference to your jobs and your earning potential when you can get around London in this way, because we can just cruise along. The meter goes up so much quicker when we're not sat in traffic. And it's also remarkably less stressful. It's so nice to be able to get around London in this way. From the Notting Hill area, I come all the way back to Mayfair, I have a hunt around and grab this gentleman on Piccadilly. He wants to go out to the Wandsworth area, just off of Heathfield Road, relatively close to Wandsworth Prison. Now, whether it's because I'm feeling a little bit tired or because I've seen that the roads are remarkably clear, I actually stick it to the big roads, and I've honestly never taken this route over to Wandsworth. I generally know that I've got to get to Battersea Bridge because I'm going to be using Battersea Church Road and I want to get to Swandon Way or the Wandsworth roundabout. But sometimes I'm a bit guilty of cutting stuff up, even late at night when I don't really need to. So I just stick to the big roads, I go past Harrods, a little bit of traffic management going on there, work my way down onto the Fulham Road, left into Old Church Street, which neatly brings us out onto the Chelsea embankment, and then from here I can just get a left into Battersea Bridge, Battersea Church Road. We run it out along Lombard Road, and at this point I can actually hear a helicopter landing at the nearby London heliport. We get our way onto York Road, comply by the roundabout, leave by Trinity Road, right Windmill Road, right Heathfield Road. At this point, I'm not too sure whether it's the big dinner that's making me feel a little bit tired, but I can't really face going back into Central. So I decide to head home. I did come in a little bit early today, and sometimes I'm a little bit guilty of just working a little bit too much, not having much of a break. So today was a little bit of a different shift because I had a nice healthy break in the middle, which can make all the difference to your mindset when you're working in London. If you've enjoyed, you might want to watch some more of my shift videos over here, or if you want a little bit more from me, why not join my weekly email newsletter? It's entirely free, I publish it every Sunday, and it's a bit of a behind the scenes of what I've been working on and what I've discovered in London that week. If you love these videos and love learning a bit about London and maybe what I'm working on, I'd highly recommend subscribing to it. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye bye.